Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lee and I like to talk about anime, books, Korean dramas, and fashion, so if you are into any of that, then stick around. We are already so close to the end of May. It has been a busy month, but I still wanted to get in my monthly reading wrap-up for the month of April because who do I think I am? I read all ebooks this last month, which is a complete shock to me. I am very much a physical book person. I get migraines if I stare at screens for too long, but I recently have been reading a lot on NetGalley as well as through my library on the Libby app. So I thought I would share some of the books that I've been reading through those apps. So the first book that I read at the beginning of the month was My Roommate is a Vampire. Now, I'm not a huge vampire girly, but I put this on my Libby kind of request after I finished Bride, and it did take a while for it to make its way to me because there was only one copy. But this book follows Cassie, I always mess up this, I'm so sorry. I'm going with Cassie. Follows Cassie as she is an artist and she is looking to move and find an affordable place to live in, I think they're in Chicago, yeah. And she meets Frederick, who puts up an interesting Craigslist ad looking for a roommate. And she kind of goes into it thinking, this guy's kind of weird, but you know, okay, he doesn't want me to go into his room, he's a little eccentric, but he's handsome and I need the good price on rent. So she sticks it out and slowly their friendship builds and she learns more about Frederick's secret as a vampire. So kind of going now into my opinion and some spoilers, I didn't love this book. I think I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, just not for me. I really wanted to like it. It was not my bag. I really thought I was going to enjoy it because I remember when it first came out, it went really viral on TikTok and lots of people loved it. But I don't know, there was something about the writing and the pace of it that I just didn't really like. I thought that Frederick getting kidnapped at the end and her having to come and save him was like kind of thrown in there very randomly. I know that it was used as like a plot point to show him that like you care, you're coming to find me, like you're here to save me. And I do love a reversed damsel in distress, but I don't know, there was something a little off about it in terms of just pacing and like time. So 3 stars on that one. Sorry, it just wasn't for me. The next book that I read was on NetGalley, and I will put the date that it's being released here because I can't remember off the top of my head, but it is a book called Queen of Shifting Sands, and I'm going to read a little bit of the description, but it follows the kingdom of Instanolde. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong and I'm so sorry, or and it follows Lystra, as she is going through the process of grieving her husband who has passed in a war. And she is from a very high influencing family, and when her fiance husband passes in the war, he, as the crown prince title, moves to his older brother who's been ill for a really long time, and his name is Alaric. And Alaric has this sort of mysterious illness, disease that he doesn't really, like, a lot of the public doesn't know about, but it's basically where if he touches anyone, they become sick. So there's a whole special wing of the palace with people who are all affected by this illness as well, who take care of him and who are like his family. And Lystra starts to get adopted by them after she is forced to marry him. This follows the two of them going through the process of experiencing grief, both from her losing her husband, him losing his older brother, the two of them both having families who are kind of vying for the throne, as well as coming together and fighting against this enemy who Lystra also was fighting against. I adored this book so much. I really hope there's a second book based off of where things got finished in the first one. It had action, it had romance, it had fantasy, and it was at times a little predictable and at other times not, which I really liked, having that kind of mix where certain moments I thought I knew was going to happen and it did, and then other moments where I was like, ooh, I definitely know this is going to happen based off of what happened before, and then bam, I don't know, and I really loved that. I really liked following Lystra and Alaric's relationship kind of go from I don't like you, your brother never talked about you, I don't like you, like your family is vying for the throne, to maybe we can be a team and allies to figure out the cure for my disease and find out what's going on, and then finally, and like save our kingdom. And then finally it kind of is like, are we in love with each other? What do we do? Oh my God. Like, and the guilt of your brother's dead and I was with him, and now all of these kinds of emotions that come up. So it was amazing. I loved it. I think I gave this 4 stars. I really hope that there will be a second book, and I'm sad because it hasn't come out yet, which means we're gonna have to wait longer for a second book. The third book I read is called Maybe You Should Talk to Somebody, and it's all about a therapist getting back into therapy and talking about her journey of becoming a therapist and changing careers to becoming a therapist, and her journey of working with some of her clients through different experiences. I had heard a lot of really great things about this book and saw that it was in my library's free app, so I decided to read it, and I'm really glad I did. I would give this 5 stars just because it's a really great book. Maybe 4.5 actually, now that I say that. But anyone who's experiencing any type of grief, experience with getting a diagnosis that's kind of upsetting, dealing with marital issues, family issues, all of it is really handled beautifully and written in a lighthearted way that still talks about what's going on, and I just overall really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed hearing about it from a therapist's perspective of also being in therapy, because I think that's also important for us and for just people in general to remember that your therapist is a human, and that your therapist probably also sees a therapist, and they're not this kind of higher being who knows all and like can cure everything with a magic wand. And I really enjoyed reading that in this book. After reading that, I read literally the day it came out, and I read it in one sitting. I read The Sunshine Court, which is the 4th book in the All for the Game Foxhole Court series. This has immense amounts of trigger warnings, and you need to read the first 3 books to read this book. So please only read this if you can mentally handle all of the trigger warnings and everything. But this has been my favorite book out of the whole series. I love Jean, and we got snippets of him in the first couple of books, and his experience in the Ravens and in the Perfect Court with Rico. And this picks up kind of at a middle point of the 3rd book where Jean is learning about what's happened to Rico, and it's basically where Renee has taken Jean out of the Perfect Court and has kidnapped him from Edgar Allan, and he is now safely with the Foxes, and it follows his journey from the Foxes to going to the Trojans and being with Jeremy, and it just filled my heart with so much joy. I love Jean and Jeremy. I love like all the fan art and the fan fictions of them, so getting to see more of like Jean's thoughts process and all of that was amazing. I'm sad we only really got like sprinkles of Jeremy, and when we did get sprinkles of Jeremy, it was always Jeremy focused on Jean, but I feel like that's such a key point to his personality, that he's such a warrior and a people pleaser and a taking care of other people. So I'm really hoping there's going to be a second book and that we will learn more about Jeremy and his family, because we got some little sprinkles of things of like how he's not really connected with his dad, and how his stepdad and his parents don't really like that he bleaches his hair, and that he does Exy, and that he, you know, is this kind of surfer college kid. So I loved the book. I ate it up. Ugh, I absolutely adored it, and I need more. I need more of Jeremy and John. Like, the final book I read in the month of April was Bewitched. Now, just to start off before I go into this, I did not love this book. I thought that it had the potential to be really interesting, and it just didn't go in a way that I kind of wanted it to, and I think that it really impacted how I experienced the rest of the book afterwards. But it follows Leah, who is a human, and this is kind of a play on Cinderella, I guess, but her friends who are witches sneak her into this like fancy witch ball where they're all wearing masks and nobody knows each other, and she has this like really kind of hot and steamy flirtatious meeting with someone who she finds out to be Gabriel Goodnight of the Goodnight family, and he is very powerful sorcerer wizard person and has this big company. On Gabriel's side of things, oh, and humans can't know about witches unless if they sign like a special contract where like nobody can know, like they sign like a binding contract is like hinted at the beginning, but she doesn't have that, so everyone's like no one can find out. But all of her friends are witches, and so she feels very isolated from them and is like, there's this part of you that I'll never get to experience and I want to. And she owns a cafe with them, with her two best friends who are witches. Then insert Gabriel Goodnight, who in order to inherit his parents' company, kind of like a Batman Wayne Industries kind of a situation, he has to experience, I think it's like 6 months to a year in the human world with no magic, which he's never done before. He's very privileged, and without his magic, he doesn't have a lot of skills. So they agree that he can work at their bar, and quickly the three of them realize that he's terrible and he's doing bad for their business. Leah also is very passionate about volunteering with animals, and so she says that he can come and work at the animal shelter that she volunteers at, and she will pay him basically out of pocket because the shelter doesn't have any money. So this follows the two of them and their relationship. Now, in theory, based on the sound of this, I thought I was gonna really like it, and I didn't. The plot seemed slowed at parts and rushed at others, and their relationship felt very rushed and ingenuine, and so I just wasn't really sure what to make of it as I was reading it, and I kind of was just wanting it to be over. Like, I just was like, I just want to get to the end of it. I just want to know what happens. I just want this to be done. And it ended in a very stereotypical way, and I didn't love the way it ended. Like, even with the stereotypical ending, it had a twist to it that I really didn't love. So I kind of was just like, yeah, I felt like this could have been done in a variety of different ways, but I think I gave it 3 stars. It still would be really interesting and fun to read, I think, around Halloween and spooky season, and with it being so hot outside, I'm sure you can see the glistening growing as I'm recording this video, but I may have changed my opinion more if it were closer to fall and spooky season. But I've just read so many other Halloween kind of themed books that I've liked better that I didn't love this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked any of these books, let me know. I'd love to know your opinions if you've read any of these too. And I will see you next month for another monthly wrap-up.